And we are live from the Bridge Studios with Dylan LeBlanc. New record is Cautionary Tale. Congratulations. It is just a beautiful piece of work.
Thank you.
And of course, you're in town to play tonight at Knuckleheads. One of our local favorites, Sarah Morgan, opens the show. Dylan is one of Rolling Stone's 10 artists you need to know. And we've been trying to help you get a little bit familiar with some airplay on the radio station. This is actually your third record, first time that you didn't go the self-produced route.
Yep. Yes, it was.
And you enlisted some pretty good guys. John Paul White, who was half of Civil Wars, and then Alabama Shakes. Ben Tanner has been touring with them doing keyboards. So those are a couple of guys who know what they're doing.
Yeah, they definitely know what they're doing, for sure.
So the thing that was kind of interesting for you, just part of your process, was you had to sort of give it over to them. You had to give up the reins a little bit.
Indeed, I did. It was an interesting and a good learning process for me.
You know, one of the things I would have loved to have seen was, I saw you quoted several different places saying that John Paul was kind of a guard dog about making sure that you pronounced every single word when you sang.
Yeah, he was. He's one of those singers. He's very dynamic, and he knows how to work the mic in certain ways to benefit, himself. And he kind of taught me some certain techniques. And, he definitely made sure that some singing techniques that I didn't really know before. And, and not being drunk helped.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Oh, don't congratulate me yet. I'm still working on it.
Yeah, I know it's an ongoing process. And then, of course, when John Paul and Ben came to it, they really wanted to strip it down. And I think that you were pretty good with that as long as they let you have your strings. Was that the bargain? Yeah,
as long as, I had, that was basically the bargain. I told them I wanted them to produce the record and I wanted their objective ear. And I had songs, and as I wanted them to listen to them. And I wasn't quite sure. I knew I wanted to do something more stripped down, but I wasn't quite sure what they meant by stripped down. And it was stripped down. They meant like we're gonna go in and we're gonna track acoustic guitar and bass and drums and that's it. And then we're gonna see where we go from there. So we did the basic tracks like that. And John sort of directed and Ben directed where they thought necessary. And then we got all the bulk of the tape or whatever. We listened back to it, and I said, well, I'd really like to put just a few things here and there, and we just sort of took it a track at a time. And I'd been playing with Caleb and Kimmy for about a year and a half before we started the record. So and during the time we started the record, and so they were already hip to the songs and stuff. They knew we had parts written out, and me and Caleb worked parts out, and Kimmy, worked parts out. We kind of did it all together, They were really influential in the process of the string parts, and, I'd hum them a part here and there, or they'd say, let's try this. Ooh, can we do that? And then they can actually score it out because they're both classically trained, and, they're a little smarter than me about music theory. I don't really know, I'm like, well, I'm trying to describe it to them, the key that it's in. Because I don't know,
Yeah.
And, and that's always a little weird. Sounds kind of brown, or it has a cloudy feel, or, I don't know. So they know what I'm talking about, and they're like, well, we can write that down. So it helps having them.
You were kind of shooting for an early 70s feel. It was recorded all analog, soulful, but you still wanted that sort of precision, that tightness in the band.
Yeah, Jeremy, I wrote a lot of these songs based on the rhythm section. I didn't want to write another slow, this record's mid-tempo, but it's definitely a lot quicker than the other records I've released. So I wanted it to have feel like, I wanted it to have that aesthetic, so to speak. I think I remember telling Ben I wanted it to sound like, think of, and I hate, generalizing things, but I was like, think about an Americana daptone record. like Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, because I'm a big Daptone fan. And I just wanted it to have that kind of lo-fi feel, but still like punch through in a solid way. And sonically, Ben is really good at sort of painting the picture in his engineering, the sound you want to get.
Track after track, really consistent, really good album. Dylan LeBlanc's our guest. Cautionary Tale is the album he's playing tonight at Knuckleheads with Sarah Morgan opening. We'd love to hear a song if we could.
Sure. This one's Cautionary Tale.
I really love that song.
Thank you.
We get so many submissions here, and you've got this list sometimes of 200 songs to listen to.
Yeah.
And when you've already decided that you're going to put it in, but you decide to listen to it one more time anyway, that's a pretty
awesome.
good sign.
Hey, thank you for playing it too. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, it's a really good record. Dylan LeBlanc is our guest. Cautionary Tale is the new album, and I'm sure it's going to be well stocked tonight at the merch table at Knuckleheads. Sarah Morgan is opening the show. Your dad is a songwriter by trade.
Yes, he is.
Wrote 85 songs last year.
Yes, he did. He's a much more prolific writer. He actually wrote more than that, but he's much more prolific than I am.
And he's had a lot of good people record his stuff. Rascal Flatts, Kenny Chesney, Jason Aldean,
Yeah.
Martina McBride.
Yeah, he's into the pop country scene, so he's had a lot of action in that world, the world that I definitely don't fit into. but you know, I'm grateful for it because it definitely put food on our table, you know, as a kid, you know. So I can't really hate on it too bad.
And when he got you your first guitar, he taught you 3 or 4 chords, but really your education was sort of sitting at the sidelines of the Fame Studios where he was working out of and watching a lot of that go on.
Yeah, so you know, as a young kid, I mean, I started playing when I was 10 or so, and after school, I would the secretary that worked at Fame would most likely be the one who would pick me up, and I would, you know, she would drive me back there. I'd do my homework in her office, and she was a really nice lady. And my dad worked, you know, he worked a lot, and he was always in the back in the studio. I mean, he was always tracking something. His game was he would write during the day, and then by about mid-afternoon, 1 o'clock or 2, he'd be in the studio. And sometimes he'd be in the studio till 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. So I would just wait out in the lobby or hang out, you know, with Rebecca, who was the security guard. I mean, the receptionist, and she was also a security guard in some form or other.
Yeah, as most receptionists are.
Yeah. But and I mean, so I did that, you know, a lot, and that was when I was really young. And then I wasn't quite interested in it yet. And then when I was like 13 or 14 really, when I started getting a little older and like, you know, I started listening to like classic rock, like the Stones, and I used to just listen to radio, you know, because that was all that I knew. So whatever was on the radio, I listened to that. And then my dad, I guess he got sick of it. He was like, bought me a sack of CDs with like the Doors and Zeppelin and the band, and so just listen to that. Just listen to all of that. Put it in and like really let it soak in. I'm tired of hearing Blink-182. And I was like, yeah, I feel you. So anyway, I did that, and I was after that. That's all I wanted to listen to. It was music, you know, with parts, and you could, you know, go inward and like subtract everything and try to pick it apart. What was that? You know, all these things I'd never really heard before, and it sounded so organic and good. And that part of it, that part of the music, just really, I wanted that. You know, I wanted to be able to do that. I wanted to be a good songwriter, and I think that's when I started that. My dad used to always say, you know, what people don't understand is, you know, like what made Zeppelin and what made the band and what made those guys so good was their songs. They had songs, and you can't do anything without good songs. And, you know, that made sense to me. So I wrote a lot of songs. You know, I just started writing every day. And I wanted to be a good songwriter, and I wanted to write things that, I mean, I hear things that I like, you know, and I go, I want to be able to do that. You know, so, and everybody, you know, does that. Everybody's derivative of something, you know.
You know, Ben Tanner, who plays keyboards with the Alabama Shakes, one of the producers of your new record, was actually an engineer at Fame Studios.
Yeah.
And he recorded one of your early sessions when you were 16 years old. So, you know.
Well, he was fresh out of college. He was like, he went to Rhodes in Memphis and came back home, and they were doing some pay cuts, I think, at the studio, and he was interning there for a while for like a trial period. And when they let a couple people go, one of them was a sound engineer, and he got that guy's job because he went to school for music. So we were both, I mean, that was around the time I was about 15 or so. So, you know, we were both just sort of starting out and figuring things out. He was much older than me. I think he was about 24 at the time. And I was, you know, like I said, 15, really young. So I thought he was just the coolest person ever, you know, because he knew about music, and he knew about, he just had a musical knowledge that I just didn't have, you know. And I was basically followed him around and everywhere he went and asked him a lot of questions. And he would, direct me toward this band or, Big Star. Or, he'd be like, you never heard of Big Star? And I'd be like, no, and he would, give me a Big Star album. And then Leonard Cohen, he was like, you never heard of Leonard Cohen? And I was like, I'd never heard of Leonard Cohen. And he would burn me a Leonard Cohen album, and just through the years, and then I would go home and I would take all that in, and then I would, songwriting, I would just look around, how do other people write songs? That's how people learn, experience and just doing it, like John Prine, Jason Isbell, he was around back in those days a lot. He lives in Nashville now, but when I was a teenager in the early 20s, still in my early 20s, but my early 20s, he was around, and I would hang out with him some and ask him a lot of questions. And he was such a great player too, like what a great guitar player. And he would do sessions too, he would call him in, and he would do a slide guitar, or he would play organ. He's a great organ player, so all these talented people were just around, and I just wanted to be in the middle of it. And so I surrounded myself with good people as much as I could.
Jason Isbell tried to give you a reading list.
He did. He was making that record, his first solo album after he left the Truckers, that record, Sirens of the Ditch, and he was in the lobby one day of Fame, and I just happened to be there, and I just asked him about songwriting, and he's so descriptive. He's one of those writers that when he sings and when he writes his songs, you can literally see it. I saw her in Roosevelt Springs, where time doesn't touch anything. Who comes up with something like that? What a great line. Where time doesn't touch anything. Like, who are you, man? It's just, what a great writer, and I wanted that. Whatever he had, I was like, dude, what do you do, And so I asked him a lot of questions. And I was lucky enough to be able to do that, to be able to ask people who had been doing it for that long professionally. I felt privileged, and I never took it for granted. I felt really privileged.
You alluded earlier to slowing down your lifestyle a little bit, and I wondered if Jason had been an inspiration in that.
Not really. When I didn't really know what happened with him. He sort of disappeared, and I didn't see him for a few years. And I didn't hear about that stuff till later, till he got, the press was talking about it.
Right.
And I didn't know I knew he had gotten into some trouble or something, but I didn't know what the deal was. I just knew that I was getting in trouble, and everybody was doing, it wasn't that I was drinking just like everybody else was drinking. I'm from Louisiana, man. We drink hard down there, really hard. And it was not abnormal. It was just the way that I behaved under intoxication. I just don't behave like other people, And that started my life became unmanageable. That's the difference between, being an alcoholic and just being a hard drinker. If you can manage your own life and drink, and Monday comes around and you can go to work and, handle yourself, productively and get things done. I just couldn't do that. The party wasn't over on Monday. The party was very much still going on.
Right.
And I was very much still ready to rock on Monday than I was over the weekend. I just never did understand it either. Like some people, like my sister, she can have 2 drinks, and I'll just look at her and she won't finish her second one, and I'll just go are you gonna finish that? And that whatever that is doesn't apply to me. I have to have all of it, until I can't walk anymore. So that being said, that 2 drinks would just make me angry. I'd be like, God, just get me real nice and worked up.
Well, whatever you're doing now, this new record is really great. I did want to touch just super briefly on the fact that you've known John Paul White a long time, too. He worked at Fame Studios, same kind of deal that your dad did as a songwriter.
Yeah, they wrote together. I met John Paul through my father. Oops. They worked together, and they wrote some songs that got cut, by bigger artists, like Jason Aldean recorded a song that they had written together. And Jon, I knew the Civil Wars in 2008 is really when I started. I saw a video of him and Joy doing "Dance Me to the End of Love," and I was like, God, that's really great, you know, like. And so I became a fan early on, and then when they started getting big in 2011, I started seeing them. You know, we played the Non-Com convention in Delaware, and they were headlining, and Bright Eyes was headlining, and Justin Townes Earl was there. Me and him sat together on the airplane. I didn't really know him that well then, but he was there, and then I saw Jon and Joy. They were like headlining it, and I was like, dude, and they were in a bus, you know, and I was like, and I'm sitting there like, you know, in a taxi walking in there, and I'm like, I'm jealous. I'm like, how did y'all get so big so fast? You know, and then I sat on his bus, and he was just telling me about the last couple of years and how, you know, everything had been moving very quickly, because nothing has ever moved quickly for me. I've just dragged, and a lot part of it's my own fault, you know, but, you know.
You have to have a sense that things are moving a little bit more quickly now. This
Yeah.
album's been received really well.
Yeah, I mean, this is the most success I've ever had on an album, you know, personally, you know, with the amount that we've already been selling and the amount of stations that have played it. I've never had this good of radio support, so that's just blowing me away, you know. I just never thought I'd see the day that radio would ever accept one of my songs and play it, keep it in rotation.
No,
I don't know. Somebody must be paying them or something. I don't know.
They are not. We don't take money. We have been offered money, but we don't take it.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then I feel better then, you know.
Yeah. So, yeah, keep your money. Yeah, we'll come to the merch table and buy something too. You know?
Cool.
We'd
gonna
love to
need
hear
you to-
another song if we could.
Sure. This was called "Look How Far We've Come."
One day I won't be insane, won't play all that foolish game we all need to play. For you to get yours and me to get my way. Some days I don't have the will. Oh, hey, nothing around you. Kind of day. I'm sparing the change for your sake. Singing love has come and drive me to drink or drive me to get a gun. Better not be the chosen one. Oh, you break your back on the slip of a tongue. Say love, far we come. Well, television selling this and that. Pretty women say I won't look like that. More than willing to pay. All of that money, but he still won't stay. Little children hear your father scream. Every action like a puppet on the string. Exact same way. With all of your mind falling
Dylan LeBlanc in our studios this morning at the Bridge. You can find out more at DylanLeBlanc.com, the new album, which I cannot recommend strongly enough, Cautionary Tale, and you can catch them tonight at Knucklehead. Sarah Morgan opens. And again, just the entire album through and through, just one track after another. It's just really a great piece.
Thank you.
I wanted to go back just real briefly. I know you've told this story ad nauseum, but you're 20 years old. You've just been signed to a new record label. And, almost on a lark, you asked your manager to see if you could get Emmylou Harris on the record singing backup vocals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I had asked, he had managed her before he had managed me, and they were still really good friends. And I've, Pieces of the Sky, that record, it's just still one of my favorite records of all time. And I think that came out in 75, like the first record she had released after Graham died. But I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think that's correct. And I just, and James Burton's all over that record. He's like one of my favorite guitar players, and just the Glenn D. Hardin, all the musicianship on that record, So I was just a huge fan of hers. And so I asked him, I said, what are the odds of Emmylou singing on a track? And he said, he was very protective of her. And I understand why, because she gets requests like that a lot, 100% of the time. And he said, what I'll do is I'll send her the track, if she listens to it, if she likes it, and she says, yeah, I'll sing on it, or I'd like to sing on that, then we'll do it. But if she doesn't, then don't ask me, any more about it. And I was like, yep, okay. So he sent her the track, which was If the Creek Don't Rise. And she liked it. I think she said something like, ooh, very Daniel Lenoir, or something like that, which was a great compliment for me. But so, she said, well, I can do it when I get home. I think she was on the road with Neil Young and John Prine on a cruise or something, and which really fascinated me. So
it's a good boat to be on.
Yeah. So Trina was Trina Shoemaker, who was the engineer for Popper's Field. She mixed it. She wasn't the engineer, but she mixed the record. We were well done with the mixing process already when Emmylou could come. So we set up in her barn. She had this setup out in Franklin, Tennessee. It was like this barn, and it was beautiful. And she bought a bunch of tulips and flowers. And Emmylou came in, and we had her vocal booth already set up. It was very early in the morning. I remember it being 7:30 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who can sing then?
I don't know. And she said, I need to warm up for a minute. So she did her thing. But it was really funny because as we started or whatever around 8:30, and she kept saying if you tell me what to do, and I just couldn't tell her what to do, because I could barely talk to her at all.
So I'm going to school you a little bit. Here's what you say. You say, Emmylou, you can marry me.
Well, yeah.
I know you've wanted to propose.
I think she's single too. I think she just lives with her mother, so.
It's not too late for you, Dylan.
Maybe not,
Hope springs eternal.
Yeah. I mean, I would totally. I would do it, for sure.
Yeah.
I hope my girlfriend doesn't get me for that one.
She'd probably understand. I mean, Emmylou's just one of those people, right?
Yeah. My girlfriend kind of looks like Emmylou, though, so. Is there a coincidence there?
If there's not a coincidence, there's probably at least a song.
Yeah. My girlfriend looked like Emmylou. Yeah, that's a good country song,
Maybe get your dad working on that one.
Oh, we come up with good stuff all the time, man. All the time.
I wanted to just ask you, and if this is too personal, it's fine too, but just ask you a little bit about your grandfather.
Yeah, it's not personal at all. Well, he died several years ago, but I lived with him on and off growing up, and he was a big inspiration. He was a good storyteller. So I really, I think a lot of me telling stories and writing songs had a lot to do with him, because we would sit around. When I'm a twin, so me and my twin sister, he would have, we drank coffee our whole lives. And that's a common thing. Everybody, in Louisiana, it's not abnormal to see people giving their babies coffee. It's probably not good, but back in that, it was early 90s, so nobody really cared yet. So anyway,
I mean, did they give them decaf or? Cause,
no. I mean, like, it was
most
like
people want their
full-blown,
babies
like,
to go to sleep.
community coffee. It was like good stuff,
Yeah.
real strong chicory in it. So, my sister would be like over here, and I'd be in this arm, and he would like spoon feed us coffee. And then I drank coffee my entire life. It's probably why I'm so neurotic in my older age. But yeah, but he was cool. I mean, he was funny. He was hilarious. He had a good sense of humor. He drank until he literally could not drink anymore. He was one of those guys that did everything until he physically could not do it anymore. And luckily it didn't kill him, So I learned a lot from him, But the cool thing about him is he was never, like, judgmental about anything. If I came in, like, really drunk or something, he would just, pull me to the side and, say something like, son, I'm not trying to preach to you, but whiskey is not nutritious. And, make me laugh. And then he'd fall asleep watching HBO. And I was dating this girl from South America at the time. Her name was Cecilia, and me and her would come in like late at night, and he would leave HBO on, and the porn would come on late at night, and so it would just be like blaring in the living room. He'd be like, "What's going on in there?" And I was like, "Hold on, let me go check it out." He's too old for that. There's no chance of that happening. But anyway, he was funny.
Had a good record collection too.
Yeah, he did. He loved Elvis. Like, he was like a huge Elvis fan, and the Righteous Brothers, and he was a hairdresser, and so growing up, I would sweep the floors after his women would get done with their hair being cut, and he would like always make me like bring him a cappuccino. So like I learned how to make cappuccino really young, so like I would go in the back, and he would say, "So whenever they get here, I want you to already have the cup and the plate in hand." And then I want you to ask him, "Ma'am, would you like a cappuccino?" And I'm from the South, so, I think technically we're still in the South, but, like, you still say ma'am and, like, sir. And that was a big thing. Like, you always say ma'am and sir. So I would say, like, ma'am, sir, would you like a cappuccino? And they'd say, "Oh, I'd love that," And I would go and make them a cappuccino and bring it back to them. And I'd sweep their hair, and then he'd give me, like, a $10 bill or something. There was a store called Johnson's down the street, and I'd walk down the street. They made their own taffy. It was so good. And the guy had a spider in a glass, and he was this guy from the Bronx or something. He was like a New York dude that moved down there from a long years before. And I'd always say, "Mr. Johnson, can I see the spider?" And he would like pull the spider out, and it was like in a glass thing. And he would sell me taffy for like 10 cents a taffy. And I'd get like $10 worth. So that was like a big sack. And I'd just sit there and eat taffy all day. So I was a hyped up kid, basically.
Between that and the coffee, right?
Yeah.
For this record, I think that the songwriting was a little bit different for you. And I think you said, no sad bastard songs, no stream of consciousness. You really wanted to say things. And you also said that there was only one song on the record that just sort of was an inspiration, and that was the one about your grandfather.
Yeah. Well, after he passed away, I couldn't write anything about him. I was really heartbroken for the first, he's been dead for 3 years now. For the first 2 years, I couldn't really think about it just because, I was really close with him, and I just could not sit down without just crying, just thinking about him, because he was such a big inspiration to me and such an awesome human being. And, I got, some of my family treated me sort of weird. Not weird, but just treated me like I was bad. So I always felt like I was bad, but he never treated me like I was bad. Because I think he was bad. I mean, naturally, I always felt like I was a bad kid, and I wasn't the best kid. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was polite, well-behaved, because that's not something I would say that I was. I'd never mind. I'd say yes to my mother and do exactly what she told me not to do. I would agree with her and say, "I won't do that." But then when she wasn't looking, I would do it. And I just couldn't not do that for some reason. And I don't know. I mean, me and my stepdad, we didn't get along, so being there, helped just tremendously because he always made me feel special. He always got that one family member that like zones in on you,
Yeah.
and you just feel like, you guys belong to each other or something. Y'all are like kindred spirits, and he was that for me. So when he died, it was rough, but that a lot of that song is just the sayings that he used to say, like just certain things he used to say, like the pardon never came before the plea, and his story. I mean, that song is his story. He made a lot of money. He had a lot of girlfriends, because my mother's mother died when she was 3, so his wife, died when he was like 27, and he had 4 children that he had to raise on his own, and he also had a drinking problem. And so they grew up rough, They grew up very wealthy because he had like a lot of businesses, and he somehow managed to keep that going until, the late 80s, and then he disappeared to Mexico, and nobody, like he just left one day. He told my dad, because him and my dad were buddies, and they used to drink together, and but he told my dad, he's like, yeah, they're coming to pad the house up, so he just took off. So my dad got like all of his jackets and his guns. The dude had the best Western clothing collection I've ever seen. like tuxedos and like cowboy boots, expensive cowboy boots, like snakeskin and antler. You just like all these weird. If you were an activist, you wouldn't want to be in his house. So anyway, but he was cool. He was just real lighthearted and always made things funny. It just the world didn't feel heavy, with him. And I always appreciated that.
I have to tell you, I just have so enjoyed listening to the full album, Dylan LeBlanc's new Cautionary Tale. It'll be at the merch table tonight at Knuckleheads. Sarah Morgan opens the show. You can find out more at DylanLeBlanc.com. And we'd love to hear one more song if we could.
Sure.
There's a world out there waiting for us, and everybody in the end got a different point of view. You could play the fool, you could play the prophet, and you are free to feel. Your empty pockets, stones to throw. Somebody's got something they wanna tell.
That was really special.
Oh, thanks, man.
Dylan LeBlanc in our studios. Would you like to introduce the band?
Yeah, I would. This is Caleb Elliott on the cello. We call him the Chelliot. And this is Kimmy Sampson on the violin. And we call her Kimmy Sampson on the violin. And this is Jeremy Gibson on the drums. And Matthew Green on the bass guitar. And that's it.
That's a great band.
Yeah, it's a good. They're the best.
So you can hear them live tonight at Knucklehead's. Sarah Morgan, one of our local favorites, opens. DylanLeBlanc.com for more information. The new album, which is really great from start to finish. Cautionary Tale available at the merch table tonight. Dylan LeBlanc, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us so much. Thank you.
Dylan LeBlanc live on the bridge.